when I was growing up, I only had one friend that I knew of, and obviously I didn't know that many people, but I only had one friend who had an allergy. He was allergic to eggs. And I remember he couldn't eat eggs. If he ate eggs, Hugh Cahill was nearly going to blow up, that type of way. But now, when my children go to school, every class, there's no nuts in the school, there's this person allergic to this, that, the other.
Kiwis,
Like, allergies
strawberries.
are pervasive. And I'm just curious about as we have moved into a more complex, sterile society, we're not exposed to as much biodiversity of microorganisms. As a result, our microbiomes are probably less diverse, and as a result, there's probably a correlation between that and allergens. Or is there? Is this just a strange hypothesis?
It was not that strange. I mean, 1969, Man on the Moon was the first medical report of a food allergy.
Wow.
1969.
Yeah.
What was it? What were they allergic to? Space.
I think it might have been, I think it was shellfish or something. It was, and so, when I was at school, I mean, I'm older than you guys, nobody had allergy. I never heard of it. And it was only when I was about 20 or so, and I met some American guy who, had carried an EpiPen. That was the first time I'd ever encountered anybody. And so food allergies are novel for humans. And I think something has to have changed in the last 50 years quite dramatically. And the number one thing that's changed is our diet. Ultra processed foods, reducing fiber, sterile foods, which have lots of chemicals in them, I think is one factor. The other is, we're living in cities. We're not getting as dirty as much. We're not playing in the garden and getting muddy. We're not mixing with animals as much, although, I see you are mixing with your dog. And we also take many more antibiotics than we did 50 years ago. So the average 20-year-old has about 18 courses of antibiotics by the time they get there. So if you combine, junk foods, antibiotics, moving into cities, that probably explains why we've lost about half of the species that we had 50 to 100 years ago, and all our ancestors had. And when we compare ourselves to hunter-gatherers, we see that big difference. So I think that lack of species means we probably aren't getting the chemicals to keep our immune system in top form. And it means that it's overreacting to certain foods as well. So that's why we get this imbalance, and why our ancestors didn't, because they were perhaps might have been getting more infections as well, minor infections. Their immune system was much better trained than ours. And so we're jumping at the sight of a little mouse, whereas in the past, we'd have dealt with that very easily. And that's probably where this allergy is coming from. And it does seem to occur, interesting, less in deprived families and less in large families. So if you've got a big family from a deprived background, you will get less allergies than from if you're a single kid in an affluent neighborhood. So it is interesting. It's very sad that we need to look at and see how our modern living is giving us new diseases that we hadn't thought about.
And then can we turn that around? Like, can suddenly say, for example, you said over the last 100 years, we've lost approximately 50% of our microbial biodiversity. Can suddenly decide, okay, I'm going to start eating more fiber-rich foods, more fermented foods. I'm going to spend time outside. I'm going to have loads of animals. I'm going to actually have a zoo, and I'm going to work in the zoo. It's going to be wonderful. I'm going to bathe in dirt, and I'm going to spend time outside in different ecosystems. Can one suddenly increase their microbial diversity massively and significantly?
And therefore influence every aspect of their health?
You can get a long way there, yes. I don't think I'll ever get to the state of a Hadza hunter-gatherer.
Okay, yeah.
And some of my colleagues have tried poo transplants from them, and even that didn't work.
Wow.
But when I spent a week with them, I did get more species.
Well, that was in Tanzania, was it?
I was in Tanzania. I got 40% more species, but they were short-lived.
And
I couldn't keep them.
And
I couldn't keep them there.
And were you wandering around Tanzania, living their lifestyle, going?
Yeah, we were camping next to them and eating exactly the same food as they did for a week. So it was short term. But as soon as I got back on the plane, had airplane food and its sterile packaging or whatever, I was back to where I started from. But seriously, I think a lot of our studies are showing, I now work with this company, Zoe, that I co-founded, and we've got 100,000 people's microbes, biomes now. And people who do improve their diets, improve their diversity, the number of species, quite considerably. So, and other people with other studies have shown short term that just in a couple of weeks, you can significantly improve your ratio of good to bad bugs and diversity. So I think we can get a long way back there, but whether we've killed off some of these guys forever, so they no longer exist in humans, so it's hard to get them, I think we have to accept that. But if we can get perhaps half of the way back to where we were, which is still a major improvement on where we are now.
Yeah.
And if we all got to where the best person is, because even within, in the UK, Ireland, there's a huge range between the worst and the best. And if we just aspire to be the best within our population, we'd be doing pretty well.